Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this show runs through the ages. Sinners and saints, goblins and haints, but beware as they say we're contagious. Sick with the truth, we uncover the lies. We beat on the drums as they march side by side. Wake up, my dear friends, and smell that fresh roast. Last night shall no longer exist. You're here by yourself, but you're never alone, as we spin stories you'll hear in the mist. Reptilians and greys, we folk who stay hidden. Mysterious booms, archaeology forbidden. Stay away from the village, keep off of the moors. There's a lady in white and bloodstains on the floor. So sit back and relax, take the load off your feet, as we're here to amaze, entertain, and complete. You see, my name is John, and Stacey's here too, and my, do we have something in store for you. Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow, with your host, authors of Till Death and Beyond, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And we are socially distanced.
We are.
Yeah, we made sure that there was at least 6 inches between us.
Wait, 6 inches?
Is that not what it was supposed to be?
No, I think it's supposed to be 6 feet. But not for us.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, then you can come a little closer then. It's fine with me. Obviously, man, hearts go out to everybody out there being affected right now and going a little bit mad from the corona or the coivoid or whatever it is, the coivid.
The coivid.
Yeah, we could just call it coivid to make it sound a little less deadly. It's like, because I mean,
the coivoid.
Yeah, coivid sounds like something. He sounds like the little Jewish kid down the street, like coivid, come back inside. You can't play with those kids. So yeah, little coivid is going to be with us for a little while. It seems. We don't know. Right? We get a news story every day. It reminds me of scientists that we know well. I think they put our scientists on this case.
Maybe.
I really do.
They're
pretty baffled.
Baffled.
If you want a scientist or baffled t-shirt, you can hit our store up because
there you go.
They don't sell as well as hashtag mommy daddy time.
Surprisingly.
But which is our number one selling shirt. Hashtag mommy daddy time. I love it. It's it wouldn't have worked if it was hashtag daddy mommy. It just don't sound right.
It doesn't sound right. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
No, it doesn't, does it? It rolls off the tongue better the other way. But hey, distractions are needed. Mm-hmm. So right now, we've got a lot of things that's in our minds that we want to present to you guys. And hey, we're keeping our promise of bringing you nonstop shows. Mm-hmm. So it's the little part that we can play is to inconvenience our life for you and make sure that we put out a whole lot of shows. That's just tongue in cheek. Seriously, that's right. We love doing this. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'll be honest with you. So we invested a whole lot of money to make spaced out radio sound really good when we do that live on Saturday nights because, we're on proper radio with it and it's got the podcast part too, but we wanted to present the best foot forward. And so we spent everything we could to make it sound better. And, make it easier broadcast wise and everything. And we did. We kind of like, okay, well, we got this new table and these new chairs. Well, let's just do it all the time, man.
Yeah, this is comfortable now.
Yeah, this just might go nightly with this. But, it's really cool doing it live. I like doing it live. Mm-hmm. I really do. I didn't think I was going to like it again because we did it a long time ago.
Yes.
But I didn't like it then. I like it now as long as we have a guest that can keep up with our minds and our thoughts and all that stuff. And so far, we've done good.
We've done good. We've had some pretty interesting shows.
Yeah, we really have. Mm-hmm. I would implore you to go back and listen to Tim Woolworth's episode. Just because paranormal, right?
Right.
Just learning. Mm-hmm. Tim is such a good guy. And there's a whole lot on there to learn. But I'll tell you what, Stace. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about stocks. Because you know how we own some stocks and all this stuff. And
we do.
They all took a nosedive.
Wow, did they?
So we lost a lot of money. Just full disclosure here. Mm-hmm. We weren't going to cash them out tomorrow, but we were, maybe thinking retirement.
But if you go look at it.
And, if you add it up, we lost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And it's fine because it's all going to come back.
That's right.
And Stacey and I have this rule where when things go panicky, we don't sell off. It's a weird thing, right? If everybody did that, guess what would not happen? Recession. Okay, so it's this crazy thing. If you own stock, when it starts going crazy, don't sell it. I would like to get everybody who does futures and put them in a room with Phil Anselmo and just have him go 5 minutes alone with them. Pantera fans will get it.
I guess so.
They have faith in Phil to beat somebody up. So it's all good stuff, man. And I'll tell you something else. Speaking of stock, this is where I was going with that. I really wish we had the foresight to have bought some stock in Pornhub right before this happened.
You think that's definitely going to be...
Can you imagine the bandwidth? Like Vaseline and Pornhub, I bet, are big sellers right now.
Possibly.
Everybody's like, why does everybody need all the toilet paper? Well, I don't know what you're thinking, but I know what I'm thinking.
Is that the real reason all the toilet paper and tissues are gone?
You can't use a regular towel. Your wife does the laundry. I mean, you got to use disposable things.
Oh, it's
and for all the younger children wondering right now, we're talking about, because you get this mucusy cough this time of year with your allergies.
Right.
Hashtag, we're talking about allergies. So it's got to be a shorter hashtag. Hashtag, it's about allergies.
There you go.
That's it. So whenever we're talking about master your own domain, then it's hashtag
allergies.
Well, no, hashtag it's about allergies.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, so that's good. We got a new one there. And distractions are good. Well, what's not good is hearing a evil voice come across a Bluetooth device.
Oh, wow.
So I have to tell this story. I promised I would. Now, I wrote the story in long form on Facebook. Whenever you see me write long form, then I've either lost someone in the family, I would like to lose somebody in the family, or I just lost a job, or got a new job, or
really anytime,
or had a
what?
Well, I mean, I don't do long form all the time.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Sure, you don't.
Wow. You hear that? Do you hear that, guys? Did the guys out there hear that?
All the time.
Can I hear the guys in the back? Give me a hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Why are there guys in the back of our room?
Well, I was going to surprise you later. It's a long quarantine. So anyway, the other night we, being pronouns, pal, Raja and I were listening to the podcast. It used to be Raja, Ari, and I, but Ari turned 13 and she found something called her room and her friends. So that's where she's at. We won't see Ari again until, what do you think, 19?
Something like that.
Something around there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Raja and I were listening to the podcast because we do that, right? We have the podcast and I don't get to listen to it back. Stacey edits it. So Stacey don't want damn nothing to do with it after she's edited it for like 8 hours. That's another cool thing about the live show. Because after Spaced Out Radio, Stacey would be up for listening to it. Be like, oh yeah, that's cool. Let's listen to that again since I didn't have to edit it. So it's usually me and the girls. And so Raja and I were down there and we always do the same thing, right? So we sit on the couch and we normally play like our devices, right? I like to play Castle Crush when we're listening. She, role plays or whatever she does. Works because she works on a computer anyway. And it just, we just sit there and chill, basically. It's a real fun time just to chill, just like you guys listen to it. It's pretty much the same thing. And the reason I do it is pretty much quality control. It's to check things we did, bits we did, whatever, how they work. And I usually use Raja as that barometer of, did she laugh at that? Did she mention that? Did she finish the sentence? That kind of stuff. It's always worked for me, and that's just what I do. So I've set it up here. So there we were the other night listening to episode 100. We listened to 100 and 101 on the same night, but we listened to 100. We were at the part, one of the questions Stacey asked me about embarrassing moments or something in the paranormal. If you haven't listened to the anniversary episode, it's really funny. We've got a lot of great feedback from it because people are like, oh my God, we learned so much about, I thought we had said everything, but apparently not.
We haven't.
So anyway, I'm sorry, I just saw something in the Scrying Mirror and it scared the bejesus out of me. It was like a Vienna sausage ghost. And to let you guys know, we'll go back to the story in a second, But I have a scrying mirror that we own. Stacey owns all kinds of weird stuff. And
I found this one in this little shop in Booth Bay Harbor, Maine. It's like that. It's a really, really awesome store. It's like 2 levels. It's crammed full of like the coolest.
Dude, when she says crammed,
I mean, you can't even hardly walk through there. It is amazing. They have all these pieces, and you can tell that a lot of them are handpicked, but they had this little handmade scrying mirror. It's like this little wooden box, and it's a pentagon shape, and it's closed with latches, and you can tell that it's handmade. Like, it's not something that was made. There's not a lot of them. This is pretty much one of a kind. And you open it, and somebody put a small, round, black scrying mirror in there.
It's like some kind of reflective stone.
Yeah, and you just can carry it with you. It's like portable, but you can open it and look at it, and scrying mirror, you stare into it, you can supposedly see spirits behind you. But it's one of my favorite things I own.
So I decided during this episode, because we've had a lot of uptick of activity, that I was going to open the scrying mirror at the first, and I opened the session, and I was like, hey guys, if you want to show up during this, it's cool. So I was just moving my hands as I was talking, and one of my big beefy fingers showed up in the mirror. Scared me to death. I thought there was like a giant penis behind me. And yeah, it was terrifying. And if I was going to get attacked by something, that would be what it was. But anyway, so the other night we're listening to episode 100, and I'm telling this story about Cott County Memorial, and where I let off this flatulence bomb, and then played it off because these girls came over, and I was like, oh my God, it's demonic, and all this stuff. It's really funny. It's in the book, but it's a true story. And as I'm talking about demons and demons from hell, and I'm really getting into it on the broadcast, there's something that comes across this Bluetooth speaker. Now we've used this for everything. We have listened to literally hundreds of hours of programming on the same black Bluetooth speaker and through the Bluetooth on my phone. Okay. So that's how I listen to the show. And the thing is, though, we use this same speaker for our ghost box when we're on investigations. I've never really put 2 and 2 together before and started thinking, maybe I shouldn't use this thing that I use out in the field.
Right.
But anyway, I was using it, and we were sitting there on the couch, and it was sort of above us to the left. And while I was talking about this part, breaking through and somewhat in the background of it, but clear as could be, there was, demon, and it was like pretty much going with it, right? Couldn't tell what it was saying, but I kind of got a little bit of it, and it was definitely a fire and brimstone Baptist preacher type thing. Mm-hmm. And it came through clear as a bell. So we let it go through all that. Me and Roger were just giggling at it and all this stuff. And then I was like, I come to my senses a little bit. And I was like, did you hear that? And she's like, yeah, that thing in the background. I was like, yeah. She goes, I just figured Mama dropped that in there. And I was like, yeah. I mean, I guess she did, but it's funny. Hold on a second. And I paused it. And Stacey was working up in the loft, and I hollered up to Stacey, and I was just like, hey, baby. And she's like, yeah. I was like, did you add something audio wise to anything? No. Because sometimes she will. She'll add a laugh or a sigh or a moan or a groan or something. And I really thought she had added something to spice that up. And she was like, no. And so me and Raja go back and listen to it again, and there's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now you have to understand the quiet nature of our home. Because of who we are, we have to make sure we know every pop, crack, and whistle. Mm-hmm. So if there was something that made noise in this house, we would take a shotgun to it out back. The refrigerator's allowed, the air conditioner's allowed. That's it. Anything else, we have to investigate it. And this came across that Bluetooth speaker at the most opportune time possible. And never before, never after, so far, we've listened to about 3 hours more. Mm-hmm. And nothing else has ever happened. But, the more we thought about it, the creepier it really was. What was it trying to tell us, Mm-hmm. It's very creepy, man.
And you were already talking about, demons and being funny, making fun of it and stuff. So
I get the whole ITC aspect. Mm-hmm. But this doesn't have the static. This is just a Bluetooth speaker.
Right.
This is just, it's a Bluetooth speaker. I mean, I don't know. It picks up what's being broadcast to it, So somewhere in between, the best I can figure is somewhere in between my phone and the speaker, there was something which I was between that. So I'm thinking that, but a week ago I seen an apparition go across the living room floor. And I didn't say anything because I wanted to see what people would say. And there's been a lot of uptick of activity.
There really has.
Yeah.
Since we've, this whole thing started, and we've been in the house more.
Yeah. Well, I'm not quarantined because I have an essential job. And so I'm gone a lot doing my essential job, but the girls are pretty much quarantined.
Yeah. I mean, I go out to the grocery store, but other than that,
we
stay inside.
Yeah. The kids we've not let them go anywhere because, I mean, we want to protect the family, and I'm careful as can be. I would wear a hazmat suit if I had it. I mean, and we just don't want to mess with it.
Right.
I seen somebody online a while ago going, well, there's only been, 3,000 deaths, and I'm okay.
Yeah, but that's 3,000.
Yeah, it's 3,000 more than there should be.
Yep. 3,000 people that probably thought they weren't going to get it.
Exactly. And you keep seeing these stories. Girl from University of Tennessee that was making fun of it online gets it. Don't screw with karma.
Exactly.
Karma was not called a bitch for no reason. Whoever named karma a bitch knew karma real well,
They were well acquainted.
Yeah, karma is the girl that throws your clothes out on the street. Karma don't let you see your baby. I mean, karma is a bitch. And we all know what that looks like. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. So Stace.
Yes.
The other day we were watching Rogan.
We were.
And when we were watching it, he started talking about things that you could do in the house. Just because you're quarantined doesn't mean, because the gyms are closed and all this.
Right.
So I looked up some of the videos he was talking about, and I found all kinds of workouts that, you can do with like Campbell's soup cans and,
things you can do instead of what you normally do.
And resistance stuff.
Makeshift things.
With just using your own weight. So, that was pretty cool. And I started DIYing all over the place. I started finding all kinds of stuff like, okay, well, I could do this. Let me look up a video. So it's a pretty fun. And it got us thinking. So Stacey and I, you remember the list we came up with. So I'm going to use it here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were talking about it, and she helped me with this first list here. We decided, well, I decided to add a second list with it.
Yes, you did.
So the reason for this list, before I even name it, is because we were thinking about paranormal enthusiast. I like using the word enthusiast.
Enthusiast.
It's like, he's a paranormal enthusiast. Paranormal investigators, you got a paranormal team, or somebody with a paranormal team, whatever, right? You like to go on ghost hunts. And you can't do it right now. There's a few reasons, okay? Number one is you might have more than 10 people if you're going to have something cool to investigate. You know how that happens.
Right.
It's like, hey, kids, we got Eastern State. Well, I brought my skeptical friend Dandy, or the girl that's going to fill you up in the dark and all this stuff. She's never been on one before. Like, hi,
right.
I'm Kathy. This is my first ghost hunt. Can I go with you? Sure. And the first time we get in a room, it's like, oh, sorry, I thought that was a flashlight. It's like, no, Kathy, it's not. Anyway, so you get the point. Social distancing is a problem. The quota is a problem. So, what are you going to do? You can't go ghost hunt.
Right.
And these places are going to close down anyway. They don't, they've got enough dead in there. They're not going to want any more.
Exactly.
So, 10 things that a paranormal investigator can do during the quarantine.
Yes.
I believe I'll start at number 10.
Okay, that's a good way to do it.
I thought so. I thought you would like that. So, number 10. Actually read all the paranormal, UFO, or psychic books that you've bought over the last 10 years and have not got a chance to read yet.
Yes, that stack. I'm not sure. I mean, we have one of those. I just assume everybody else does too. The stack of books that you need to read, but you just don't have quite enough time.
We've purchased a lot of books, though.
We like books.
We do like books. Number 9. Take a battery inventory of your gear to see how many batteries your kids have stolen for their toys or remotes.
Yes, this is a good idea. And while you're in there, organize that. Dig out all those dead batteries out of the bottom of the case.
Oh, the big mass grave.
Yeah, like when you take everything out and you got that layer down there of like old batteries and pieces of paper and random things.
Old pieces of gum. That kind of stuff. Number 8, make a flashcard game to play with your spouse or significant other to test your psychic powers.
Ooh, let's do that.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Like the wavy water.
Right.
Square.
Like the ones they use on Ghostbusters. There's a name for those. Those are called Zener cards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
They are. I mean, I'll be happy to help you make them and do it with all you guys.
Okay.
And, I can grade you.
Okay.
So let's see how that goes. The point is to do it more than once.
Right.
Like focus and get better
practice.
at it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And by the end of this thing, maybe you'll be a psychic too.
Yep. You never know.
You never know. Number 7, put random items in a box and post said box on Facebook to see which one of your friends you kind of need to worry about.
See if anybody can guess.
Yeah. It's a fun game.
Make them super random.
Yeah. It's a fun game, Mm-hmm. Put a used condom in a box, and I guarantee you, if somebody picks that, that's your Huckleberry. So, and that's an idea I shamelessly stole from John Tenney. Just figured I should throw out credit where credit is due.
Right.
Number 6, learn how to meditate and open your third eye without passing out, Stacey.
Well, I mean, I just get so relaxed. I can't seem to help it.
Every time I've ever tried. I'm like, okay, you want to try again? She's like, yes, I really do. All right, let's lay back. Now picture a beach.
Maybe I shouldn't lay back. Maybe that's the problem.
Look around and, just focus, and you'll feel the energy in your feet. And by that time I'll hear. Yeah, so you got a lot of time. Let's learn how to do that.
All right.
Number 5, use your ITC device to attempt to name all of your technicians.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
This is you have to listen to both shows thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you listen to Tim Woolworth's episode on Space.radio, available at space.radio.com.
That's right.
You would have heard him talk about technicians, which come across with your ITC devices. And oddly enough, we shared some of the same ones, which is really weird. Anyway, it's a lot of fun, and that's kind of a commercial I passed in there. Number 4, use your infrared cameras or your IR gear to record your cat and see what that sucker is up to at night.
That is the biggest mystery of all.
Yeah, cats, dogs, parakeets, whatever.
Yeah.
Just
what are they really, what are they really up to?
What
are they doing?
Some kind of dance or something. Yeah.
Communicating with UFOs and stuff.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I think cats are alien anyway. Right. So, number 3, update your team's damn website.
Please.
Yeah, seriously. Last time it's got events on there from 2015, guys. All right. Every time we go to somebody's website, it's like coming soon. That's one of my favorites. Under construction. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure I know a couple of teams I really thought were named Under Construction. Or you have the member on there from 2008. Right. The evidence page is stuff you captured at Gettysburg in 2007. So update it. Just update it. Number 2, finally watch all those cool live cams of haunted places. Oh, yes. Yeah, be the first person to watch them and the first person to catch something on them.
Right. We're gonna because all of those places are going to be empty right now. Yeah. So good time to catch stuff.
We're going to be talking about one later that I'm actually going to watch. And I don't usually do that. Last time I watched a live cam for Paranormal was me and Stacey in the old days of the internet watching that haunted library.
Oh, that one was great. I loved that one.
But it was so long ago. It updated like once a minute. And we thought we were going to catch a ghost. Can you imagine the percentage of being able, what's the odds of being able to catch a ghost in that library?
In that one spot.
On that old nasty camera in like 99 or 2000 in a once a minute update.
I mean, I don't know. I think people said they saw stuff, but
we thought that was the cat's pajamas too. We really did, man.
We were kind of addicted to it.
We were cool. We thought. And number 1, practice your lucid dreaming / start your own dream journal.
Yes, that's a big one. That's something that you have to be able to have some good quality sleep to do. And, if you're not going anywhere, you have plenty of opportunity to do that good quality sleep.
Yeah, Stacey does the dream journal. I do the dream I just was attacked journal. So
right.
I only write them down when it's something horrible.
And if you aren't somebody that likes to write things, especially when you're half asleep and you just woke up, they do have apps like dream journal apps where you can record your dream or type it on there, whatever. I mean, if you like that better, and then that way you have like a little database and you can search them quickly.
So I don't agree with her on that. And here's the reason why. I started recording my dreams when I woke up on my phone on the recorder. Mm-hmm. And I went back to listen to one of the last ones I had because I was going to research it a little bit and see what all I dreamed about. And oh my God, it was, and you're asleep. You're asleep pretending to listen.
Right.
So I hear you go, uh-huh. And I'm like, uh-huh. And then what happened? It's comedy gold.
Well, no, personally, I'd rather write it down, but some people would rather type it or, talk about it or whatever.
I think writing it down makes you think about it harder.
Probably.
So you'll probably retain it better. But anyway, so I made another list.
Okay, what's your other list? Those were all really good things to do, though.
Yeah,
by the way,
seriously.
Keep you entertained during your quarantine.
Absolutely. 10 things for a paranormal investigator not to do during quarantine.
Oh, this is probably good information.
Yeah, it really is. So,
right.
Number 10.
Okay.
Do not start the Learn from Home, Be an Exorcist online course. It's just not, it's not a good idea. Okay.
No, probably not.
And they're out there. Just let's not do that. Not right now. Number 9, do not use your night vision IR to record your bedroom at night.
Oh yeah.
I know it sounds very paranormal activity and, kind of cool. Like, hey, maybe we can see the ghost. And no, you don't want to. Here, listen, let me remind you again. You're quarantined, okay? Meaning you're probably not going to be allowed to go stay at the Days Inn.
Right.
So right now is not the time you want to see Uncle Fred.
Right. Or if there's a little kid standing at the end of your bed while you sleep, you don't want to know that.
Yeah.
Just be happy in your ignorance.
Yes. Ignorance is bliss, and let's stay bliss for right now. Number 8, do not attempt to binge every paranormal show currently on television.
Oh my gosh.
Number 1, it's probably not possible, but also you may hit a horrible depression.
All that binging. Oh my goodness.
Pick and choose. Number 7, please do not try psychically communicating with your pets. It just confuses them. Okay. If they do get a word, they're pets. They're going to get a human word.
Right.
And they're not going to understand it. So unless you're psychically communicating going woof, 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 they're still not going to understand that. You probably just told them you hate their face. They're going to be depressed.
Not sure how it actually works.
No, we're not sure.
Your pets are quarantined too, and they have to be in there with you.
So the last thing they need is you staring at them intently.
Right.
Number 6, please do not try to summon an incubus or a succubus to spice up your bedroom life. I know you've been together every day. I know some days you don't shower. There's going to be those days. The quarantine will be over soon and you can get ready and have date night. Okay? That'll be fine. Right now, little things like summoning other people to participate or dressing as hobbits, probably not a good idea.
No, probably not.
Number 5, whatever you do not clean out your closet. Find your paranormal acronym shirts from 2010 and try them on expecting them to fit. Okay? Because I'm telling you, Spirit Indiana, it's not going to fit. All right? It's just not going to fit. You're going to feel really depressed. And right now you kind of want to eat. You don't have a lot of joys.
Right.
So hence stalking Pornhub and things like, you're not going to want to do that, okay? Number 4. It's cool that you have the thermal camera, okay? Mm-hmm. But do not try to record flatulence with it. We really don't want to see it. I know you're thinking, man, this is YouTube gold. It's really not, okay? Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Number 3, please don't use your ghost box to attempt and communicate with every dead celebrity as they pass away during this virus.
Oh no.
I know Joe Duffy died. But that doesn't mean you need to ask him anything right now. It's just taboo.
Give him a minute.
Give him a minute. It's very taboo and addictive. So please don't do that. Number 2, whatever you do not use your EMF detector to go to the corner where your cat's been staring at daily. Okay? You don't want to know. This falls under that bedroom thing.
Right.
When you go over there and it spikes to 4.2, you're not going to be very happy.
You're not going to be comfortable in your house.
Not at all. Let Whiskers keep staring over there and just tell people your cat's simple.
My cat's just stupid. It's fine.
Number 1, and this one, I mean this wholeheartedly. Do not, under any circumstance, decide to play Ouija board with the family on Family Fun Night. Okay, you've got games for the kids. Play those. Even play Monopoly. I know it's going to cause a fight. I know there could be some domestic violence involved, but do not get the Ouija board out. Just, you know what? Let's just keep it where it's at. That's a good idea.
Every night is Family Fun Night.
Until the quarantine is over, let's just do that. Because if you do it, every night will be Family Fun Night with, once again, finding your daughter at the end of your bed staring at you with black eyes.
Right.
So there you go. There's our 10 to-dos and our 10 do-not-dos.
Exactly.
So, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy that. And if you really want to know what not to do, you know what you have to do?
What do you have to do?
Go to ParanormalSideshow.com. That's where you find out what not to do. On Facebook.com/Paranormal Sideshow. All kinds of do not do's. Mm-hmm. On Instagram, hot do not do damn. That's where you find John and Stacey Edwards. Just look it up like that. It's a really cool way. On the Tweeter machine, it's at Sideshow97. There's all kinds of do not do's on there. Mm-hmm. When we're on Spaced Out Radio, though, you can follow us with the Spaced Out Radio. At Spaced Out Radio or
hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Just follow the hashtag.
All right, follow the hashtag. On Saturday nights live at 11 o'clock. Mm-hmm. You got to tune in, spacedoutradio.com or one of the affiliates out there on the terrestrial radio stations. But you can find out that by going to spacedoutradio.com as well. Go into the Spreaker link and you can actually get in the chat room with us. Mm-hmm. And, we'll talk to you in the chat room. It's really cool, a lot of fun. We had some people pop in there this last week. Every Saturday night, though, it's 12 a.m. Eastern Time and it's 9 p.m. Pacific. Yes. So it's Spaced Out Saturday with John and Stacey. Mm-hmm. And we got a really awesome guest this week, Ross Allison. Lots of cool Haunted Seattle books and things like that. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Haunted Seattle, which should be a great topic because we don't know jack crappity about it.
Nope.
Whenever that happens, it's a fun day at the office. Mm-hmm. And on Patreon, if you want to be a patron, thank you to all the patrons we have out there.
Yes,
but
big
it's
thank you.
Patreon.com/Paranormal Sideshow. That's where you go and find all our patronage. Something like
all
that.
The info.
And speaking of Patreon edge S's, here's Stacey Edwards with some paranormal news.
She's the GOAT of paranormal news, traveling the globe to find you the stories you didn't know you needed to hear, and the stories she knows you'll never forget. It's time for Stacey Edwards and Paranormal News.
All right, let's get to the news.
Let's.
All right, so this first story is it has the part in there about that live cam you want to watch.
Oh, boy.
Yes, so this is a story about how Skinwalker Ranch is going to have a live stream.
Oh, boy.
Isn't that awesome?
It's going to be great.
So the History Channel is doing a new show called The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch.
From the makers of The Curse of Oak Island.
And it's going to premiere on the 31st of March. And the show is going to include scientific experiments to search for answers. And they're going to use all kinds of high-tech tools, lasers, ground-penetrating radar, tons of stuff. And this past Friday, they did, in preparation for this new show, they did an AMA with a man named Travis Taylor, who happens to be the data scientist for the location. And then they're going to do a 12-hour overnight live stream hosted by the History Channel on Monday night from 8 p.m. Eastern to 8 a.m. Eastern. That's the only time you're going to get to live stream Skinwalker Ranch. So if you want to see it.
Oh, I thought it was going to be all the time.
No. I mean, maybe this new owner seems to be pretty outgoing and, allowing these things to happen. So you never know if it's pretty popular. He might, continue it. Yeah, probably. But there will be the live stream for those 12 hours that you can watch. So,
well, I know what I'm doing. I'm paying Stacey to watch it for 12 hours.
The new owner, the current owner, his name is Brandon Fugel, and he bought it in 2016.
I'm surprised he spent a lot of money on it with a name like that.
It's not frugal. It's close.
Oh, well.
Well, it's funny because they were doing this, Newsweek was doing this interview with him, and he claims that, for the first time in his life, he's been witness to things that defy any conventional explanation, and that his experiences on the ranch have forced him to re-examine his views and to keep a more open mind.
That's what I said after the first year of marriage with you.
So I'm pretty sure that's what the History Channel show is going to be about, just the different things that are happening. They're going to do experiments, talk about the different experiences that have gone on. That particular property has had 24/7 security surveillance for years, like over 20 years. There's tons of footage that they have. I mean, it's like a laboratory on its own.
Oh, yeah, man. There's so much there. Like, I wouldn't want to be a cow anywhere near there.
Right.
It's just one of those bad things.
And supposedly, for those that don't know, it's supposed to be very UFO heavy, I think, there.
Well, it's everything. It's one of those Romania forest kind of places.
Right.
It's just like a little everything that can happen, will happen, supposedly, right?
Right,
and,
right.
Allegedly, that's our word.
Right.
So we'll see. It's going to be a cool show to check out because it's kind of like behind the Iron Curtain, I've always wanted to go there.
Right.
I've always wanted to investigate there just because it's one of those things you hear about all the time.
Right.
So it'll be fun. And plus the people that do Oak Island and Ancient Aliens, all that stuff, it's really good stuff.
Yeah. So I did look up the AMA that took place this past Friday. I didn't read the whole thing. A lot of the stuff that was said was just sort of plugs for the show. So I think that's why they did the AMA in the first place. So I don't think there was any revealing nuggets. Like, I don't think they gave anything away ahead of time. So you can check that out if you want to, but definitely look at the live cam. You never know if you're going to catch something.
That's it, man.
Skinwalker Ranch.
I'm going to be watching.
All right, let's move on to the next story.
Let's.
And this is a space story.
Ooh.
So it's about a study that claims that it is possible that there could have been life on Mercury at some point.
Really?
Yes, it's funny that this came up because when we did Spaced Out Radio this past weekend, the last segment is our Something Strange About This Week segment, which is my favorite part of the show, where we talk about, weird things that happened in history for the week coming up for the next week. So you can kind of know what days to look out for.
Right.
Weird days. But on March 30th in 1974, we talked about the first pictures of Mercury being taken.
Right.
So it's funny that, Mercury
who
comes
took
up
Mercury
again.
in 1974? They put it back, though.
No, they took pictures.
Oh. I thought, well, that was a big coup. That's like a James Bond villain.
They just took images of it and sent those back.
What's your demands, Professor X?
I'm going to take Mercury.
What a terrible villain. What shall we do to take over the world? Let's steal Mercury.
They'll
That'd be
never
great.
expect it.
Exactly.
I want $1,000.
1,000.
Small bills.
Well, supposedly this research that was published recently in a journal notes that the planet's surface, because the planet's surface has these like pits in it and stuff, and it's not smooth like you would think. And for a long time, they thought that they were the result of quakes from inside the planet. But they're claiming now that that's not the case. It's not the result of quakes, but rather these things they call volatiles. And what that is
it's something volatile.
In geology, when they talk about volatiles, like in geology, it's just some components of magma which are dissolved until they get to the surface where they expand. They change form really quickly and they expand and they create. Yeah, they create these places in the ground. And some examples are things like water and carbon dioxide and things like that. So they're saying that, upon further review, it's not such an outlandish idea that Mercury could possibly have once had all the building blocks and had life on it.
The problem with that is how freaking, was it fire people? It's right beside the sun, man.
It is, but supposedly, who knows what kind of life, but I think supposedly if they did have, because there's actually ice deposits on Mercury.
Really?
In the poles, yeah. So I think if there had been these different elements on there, it would have balanced it out just a little bit. But, it's all just speculation. They don't really know. It's just another theory to explain.
But so Mercury though has a surface. It's not a gas.
Right. And so I don't know. It's a really interesting article, an interesting study, and I think it's funny that they've gone from no, there could not possibly be any life in this particular place to it's a possibility. Well, everything's a possibility.
They tend
now.
to go there a lot. I mean, let's just call it a spade here.
Right, exactly. And also, speaking of space, let's talk about this.
I swear to God, I thought you were going to say speaking of spades. And I was going to be like, no way. David Spade died. All right.
That would have been a great segue, but no. Space Force has made its first launch as military satellites lift off from Cape Canaveral. So Space Force is doing this thing called the Advanced Extremely High Frequency Satellite grid. And there's like six satellites that they put up there that is supposedly going to provide global, survivable, protected communication capabilities for strategic command and tactical warfighter operations on the ground.
In case of EMP blast or something?
Something. I'm not exactly sure what the whole, because I've not really heard anything about this program, but apparently this launch that they did put the very last satellite up there, the final satellite in what they're calling the constellation. And this whole thing proceeded recently despite the fact that everything else has been postponed because of the pandemic. And in fact, the article also talks about how the impact of the outbreak has put all the space exploration programs on hold. So everything that was supposed to be happening, the rovers, the Mars things, it's all getting pushed. And they still launched this past week, even though they canceled something that SpaceX was going to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's really interesting. Something that, Space Force just jumped right out there and started doing stuff, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
But it's an interesting little surveillance grid thing that they've got going on now that I didn't know anything about.
Yeah,
but it is all in place now.
That's really interesting and weird at the same time because the fact that they felt they needed to do this, even though everything else is postponed, it almost is like they wanted to do something of a little less fanfare than normal. And there's a big bang in here just now.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, I agree. And I thought it was funny that the article was just a blip. It's a very short article, and it sort of just was done, and then that was it. I feel like we're gleaning a lot more off of that article than what they expected people to
kind of
see.
Hey, you can keep that $1,000 you found, but you have to put it in the paper somewhere.
Right.
So you buy the cheapest ad on the last page.
Exactly.
It's like found Walmart 1,000, thanks. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to a very interesting interview. You're going to be really excited about this one. It's about the mystery of the Bosnian Pyramids.
Oh, wow.
Did you know that there were Bosnian Pyramids?
Yes, I did.
I figured you did. So this is an interview that was done by George Knapp with archaeologist Dr. Samir Osmanagic. And, he has a PhD. He's been running this project with the Bosnian Pyramids. And I believe that he caught up with him at a UFO conference. And it was funny because one thing about the interview, this isn't what I was going to talk about the story, but he told him, he said, you're a PhD and you teach at a university. And he asked me, he says, is there a stigma attached to being involved with a UFO conference? Being someone that works in a university. And he said, you know what? Of course there is, but I don't care. It's I just don't care. So I thought that was pretty cool. So if you don't know about the Bosnian Pyramids, this interview is so wonderful. It talks about how they claim to be the largest, the biggest, and the oldest pyramids on the planet.
Yeah, there's been a whole lot of debate if they're pyramids.
Right. And he talked about when he first discovered them. He said in 2005, he first traveled to this little Bosnian town of Visoko. It's in central Bosnia. And he wanted to visit the local museum. And he saw something that everybody called a hill. But it had 4 sides, triangular faces, 4 corners, the same slope from top to bottom. So he took a compass over there to kind of check it out. And he said the compass showed him that the sides were perfectly oriented to the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. And he said, Mother Nature doesn't make hills with 4 triangular faces in perfect orientation, And so he said also that we've been programmed to think about pyramids like in Egypt, desert, pharaohs, tombs. He said, let's just forget about all of that. He said, let's forget about those bedtime stories about pyramids being tombs. He said, they're not tombs.
Right.
He just comes right out and says it. And he says that the ones that he's studying are energy machines.
Right.
Machines. And they've done tests which are so fascinating, where they've flown drones and stuff up above the pyramid to kind of measure the electrical field that's coming off of this pyramid. And there is one, which is amazing. And he talks about it being, I think it's the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is what it's called. And he says 28 kilohertz in frequency. And it goes from about 13 feet all the way out to 70 feet, back to 13 feet, out to 70 feet. So it goes in waves, which is how it's supposed to work.
Right.
They're called scalar waves. And it's something that, Tesla worked with, and it's well known. And so they've been doing these tests with this, and he claims that this is an ideal medium for communication of very long distances, and not like, from here to Europe long distance, like cosmic long distances.
Right.
And so he talks about all of this in this interview, and it's so fascinating. And he talks about how when they uncovered the pyramids, that, the concrete blocks were rectangular. Some of them were square. They were 7 to 40 tons, several rows of the blocks. And they found in between some of the blocks like fossilized leaves, which is organic material. And they were able to radiocarbon date that organic material. And after they studied it, they determined that these pyramids were roughly around 33,000 years old.
Yeah.
So,
which falls right in line with not the last cataclysm, but the one before, because it was around 30,000. And that was the last time that this particular meteor shower came through that we have go through every single year.
Right.
But the prevailing Graham Hancock theory is that ever so often we're apt to get hit, and that's what happened 10,500 years ago, and what happened. There.
And he's claiming that that makes these the oldest pyramids on the planet, because I guess he's just going by what is the accepted age of all the other like the Egyptian pyramids.
But there's 300 million, they think. I mean, so we don't know.
So we don't really know, but these are pretty old. And the fact that they can get that energy field off of them is just amazing. And he claims that, from day one, archaeologists, geologists, museum curators, historians, everyone was against them doing this research and working with this, and that they wrote petitions to the Bosnian government asking them to stop the project.
Yeah.
And he
Isn't that
said,
crazy? Instead of just letting them look, right?
Right, and letting them get this, like, if this is some amazing new discovery, wouldn't you want to find that out?
Right.
But no, they're like, no, this goes against what we think.
I mean,
so you have to stop.
it's more than changing textbooks.
Right.
There is something more to this. Everybody is all nice about it. Dr. Robert Schoch's nice about it. Graham Hancock's nice about it. Everybody's nice about it. They're like, well, we think they don't want to be wrong. And, that's okay at one point in time, but now we have a new generation of people that's come along, and you're always going to have that happen, right? So they're wrong all the time. We make jokes about it. And I just think there's more to this. There is more to the cover up than we can even realize. The same hands that are covering this up are covering up the entire alien saga. I guarantee it, because this is us at another time, completely energy independent, free energy. Right. And it's probably our technology. It really is. It's probably like humans were definitely more advanced. And they knocked us back to the Stone Age. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. So, and he talks about in this interview how in 2006 he established this nonprofit foundation for the research. And, this has been going on since then. This is like really long. It's been going on for like 15 years or whatever it is. And volunteers have come from tons of different countries. I think it's like 63 countries. Their employees work there, and the Bosnian government doesn't give them any money. because of all these people that, protest it. They won't stop the project because it brings in tourists. And it's good for Bosnia to have that tourism. It makes them happy to have that tourism, but they also don't give them any money. So they do their own things to earn money. They take donations. They sell bottled water that they get at this Bosnian pyramid that's supposed to be healing water.
Wow.
Which is crazy. So George Knapp asked him, as they're going through this conversation, who built them? What civilization built these pyramids? And he didn't really know. He just said that, somebody obviously much more advanced than us that was living way back then, and that they're absolutely not tombs, which he just kept saying over and over, really trying to prove his point. And he claims that they also had a multi-purpose use, that there are tunnels underneath the pyramids. So it's like a huge network of like underground tunnels, because in this valley, the Bosnian Valley of Pyramids, there's 5 pyramids. And the network runs for, miles. And supposedly these tunnels have a healing effect. There's like thousands of testimonials where people will come to the tunnels because, tourists can go there. And like people that have high blood sugar, they'll take it before they go. They'll go to the tunnels. They'll stay for a while. And when they leave, their blood sugar is normal, or high blood pressure, or things like that. And people with pains, they'll come and then their pains will go away.
When are we going?
And and he says that people come with very serious diseases. They stay for like a week. They go twice a day. And, they're miraculously have healing that happens just because they've gone to this location. So, I don't know how. I mean, that's just tourist, testimonials. I'm sure some of that, there has to be truth to some of that. And George asked him, he said, do you have a separate investigation looking into that? And he said, of course we do. We have medical doctors that are, investigating that aspect of these pyramids. They have people from all different disciplines that come to, investigate and search different theories on everything about these pyramids. And they do talk about the water in here, about the pH level of this amazing, they call it Bosnian pyramid water, and you can buy it when you're there. And that's one of the ways that they get their income, because they actually don't have any other, they have to cover all their employees.
Can you order it?
I tried to see if you could order it online, and I didn't find a place yet.
You should contact him.
I'm not sure. Maybe ask him if he can buy some Bosnian water, pyramid water. So
that could be our new sponsor.
It's such a fascinating, and the interview is actually very long. I really just touched on a couple of highlights that I thought were interesting, but it's definitely worth a read. And there's a video there where you can actually watch it instead of reading the transcript.
Right.
So it's really, really interesting.
Well, yeah, that's freaking amazing. And
not really talked about all that much.
Well, the whole thing is there's going to be somebody out there that goes right now and it's like, why haven't we heard about this? Well, you're not going to hear about this.
No.
This is the kind of thing that we hear about all the time, and I study all the time. That is just miraculous and amazing. And the reason I get so bent out of shape about what happened before is because right under our feet, we don't have to go out to space. In fact, we need to do it here. We need to look and research and demand that we get the answers. I drive by places all the time that I am convinced there is something under the hill.
Yeah, pyramids and stuff.
Just the way it looks. And we find them all the time, guys. Listen, there's a lot more to our story than we realize. In fact, there's a lot more to our story missing than we actually have. By far.
Yeah.
Even this, 30,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago, think of that. Once again, 2,000 years ago is the time of Christ. 2,000.
Right.
So 30,000, man, just wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's amazing that they're supposedly the largest pyramids in the world, but you still don't hear about them that much. Yeah. Of course, they could be measuring them in Bosnian inches.
It could be the Bosnian inches. Wow, there's a throwback.
Just I had to get that in there somewhere. All right. Well, while we're on discoveries, let's talk about some more discoveries. So this one is about a mysterious face that was found in a British Columbia cliff near a logging operation. So this is from Port Alberni. And this man is wondering if perhaps this recent logging operation on the Central Coast has uncovered a giant face carved into the face of the rock.
Oh, my God.
So Fred Thompson, he was driving a logging truck near Genesee Bay for a Powell River-based company, and he said that the company has cleared a cut block and uncovered what appears to be a giant face that he claims reminds him of the ones that are seen on Easter Island. He said he thinks it's too perfect to be natural because the nose is perfectly vertical to the earth and the eyebrows are 90 degrees to that. And I actually have a picture here so you can see it. So there it is.
It does kind of look like a moai.
It does. And he said you could probably put a square on it and you'd find that it was pretty close to square. And so now there's no saying that it is actually a face. It's just unusual kind of formation.
That's a face.
And it doesn't really look natural if you ask me.
No, that's a face.
Yeah, it looks like somebody carved that out, doesn't it?
It's a face.
And it almost looks like they haven't uncovered the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like there's more in there.
It's a face with weathering and stuff that was covered up and obviously, time.
Right.
God knows how long that's been. But no, it's too square around the forehead area.
Right.
And they're just, that nature doesn't do that. That's perfect L's. And
Well, that's what he seemed to think, yes. And he said that he was parked beside it in his truck for 9 loads of logs and just kept looking at it and wondering how it got there.
It is like,
and
Fred.
The more he looked at it, the more he thought that's not natural. And it's at least 18 feet high. So I don't know. It's pretty crazy. I don't know if anybody's going to go out and actually study it.
Are you kidding?
But it is getting some attention.
Yeah, I'll guarantee you there's some people out there on their way right now.
See, it's sort of covered up at the bottom underneath where the nose is. I kind of want to have somebody dig that out and see if there's a mouth or anything else that goes with it, because that's pretty crazy. There should be a cave. Maybe there's a cave down there.
An opening in the mouth.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Have they went inside the Bosnian Pyramids?
Well, I mean, they've been in all those tunnels and stuff. They've been there for so many years. I would think so. But I would have to look up and research more. I've just,
Well, I mean, I knew a lot about them. I just didn't know if they'd actually been explored inside, if we had moved things around and went inside to see.
Right. I'm honestly not sure. That is a good research subject to come up with.
It'll be nice having something that Egypt doesn't control.
Yeah, really.
So we can actually find out something.
To get some answers about it. All right, so while we're on discoveries, let's talk about something that was found at Angkor Wat.
Oh, another one of my passions.
Yes, so Angkor Wat, for anyone that doesn't know, is a Hindu temple complex in Cambodia. It's the largest religious monument in the world.
Much older than they say.
Yes, it says it was originally constructed as a Hindu temple, but it was gradually transformed into a Buddhist temple about the 12th century. So just for anybody who didn't know what Angkor Wat was, it's really cool looking. Look up some pictures.
So huge.
The Apsara National Authority discovered a mysterious 1,000-year-old structure of a wooden building at the bottom of a pond after the Angkor Wat Temple's conservation team completed restoring this cave that they have on there.
Right.
So they just found it strictly by accident. It was crazy. It says it's a mystery. It was buried at the bottom of the pond for almost 1,000 years. And it's a wooden structure. They said that was just a coincidence because they were there just to restore and repair a pond because it's a favorite of like tourists, local and visitors and stuff. And they like to take pictures there that reflected off the water. And so when too many people visit the pond, there's a lot of sediment that gets down there and it gets kicked in and it just gets really messy. And so they went down there and they decided to start, kind of restoring it, making it safer and look better and stuff. And it just so happens that they were excavating and studying the bottom of the pond and they noticed this wooden pole buried at the bottom of the pond and they didn't really know what it was. And so they started kind of digging around to see if they could figure out what it was and discovered that it's the structure of a building. And it could only partially be seen, so it's not even been fully explored yet. Isn't that crazy? And so they're going to continue further research.
It's weird that it's under, that water should have already been there 1,000 years ago.
You would think so, yeah. It's weird that it's down there. And so they're going to continue research to kind of ascertain the exact age of the building and try and decide if it was there before, later on. They have absolutely no idea. It's
really
at the
crazy.
Heart of Angkor Wat. What on earth could that be?
No, it's really crazy. Like I said, that's way after. I don't know. That's weird.
And who would, if you were building something that you knew was going to be in water, you wouldn't build it out of wood.
No, not.
So that's very strange.
Yeah. Curious.
All right. So our last discovery is about a mysterious 5,000-year-old sword that was discovered in a Venetian monastery.
Been finding a lot of old swords lately.
I'm telling you, this one wasn't in the bottom of a pond or anything.
Yeah.
A doctoral student in Italy was visiting a Venetian monastery and spotted a small sword that was in a display cabinet among a bunch of like medieval items. But when they saw it, this student had studied swords in like ancient Near East, extensively studied them, and thought that the weapon looked much older than the medieval things that were around it, like the medieval period.
Right.
So they claim that it looks similar to some 5,000-year-old weapons that were found like in the ancient royal palace in Turkey.
Right.
And so, they went and talked to one of the Catholic monks and was like, I really told him what they thought about the sword, and they ended up having it tested. And the student was right, that it really is an old sword. And it turns out that they did have some records that the sword came there from Turkey in the second half of the 19th century, but they didn't have any other like really detailed information on it. So I guess someone just saw it and thought, oh, sword.
Some lazy part-time.
Medieval.
Yeah.
So it's just a small sword, but you can tell that it looks very old.
Hey. Carmine. It's my nephew Carmine. I gave him a job.
Right.
Carmine, come here. Come here for your Uncle Vito. Carmine, I need you to go date this sword and tell me where it needs to go. But I was going to eat some more meatballs. No, not right now, Carmine. It's very bad on the stereotypes. Yeah. Sorry. Carmine's a bastard.
So that's pretty interesting. You don't go visit a monastery to think you're going to find a major archaeological thing.
They're good on that guy for like speaking up, man.
Right.
And that makes you just want to go look at every museum and don't take the answer they give you.
Right. And because you never know when somebody's mislabeled something,
Yeah. I mean, that's not a shark tooth. I mean, really. Yeah. That's crazy.
It is crazy. All right, so let's move on and talk about a treasure hunting story.
Yay!
So this is a story. You say yay, and I'm gonna give you a bomb here. It's about a man who died looking for Forrest Fenn's treasure. In Colorado. So before we get into the story about this man, let me just give a little history on this Forrest Fenn treasure. So just for people that don't know what it is. So supposedly the Fenn treasure is a cache of gold and jewels, which this man, an art dealer named Forrest Fenn, he's an author from Santa Fe, New Mexico, he claims it's hidden in the Rocky Mountains of the United States. So in 1988, Forrest Fenn was diagnosed with cancer, and he was given a prognosis that was likely terminal. And so it inspired him to hide a treasure chest in an outdoor location with the purpose of creating like a public search for it. And he also intended the location to be his final resting place with the treasure as like a legacy. Mm-hmm. So he eventually recovered from his illness. Mm-hmm. And in 2010, he self-published a book called The Thrill of the Chase. It's like a memoir. It's like a collection of short stories from his life. And he describes the treasure chest and gives all these clues on where he hid it.
He's given clues his whole life.
Still hidden. Yes, exactly. And it claims that the treasure chest that he hid is a bronze box estimated to be forged in about the 12th century because, he was like an art dealer and an antiques dealer, and that's just what he did with his life after he got out of the military. And he said the chest features a bronze construction with a wood liner and a locking front clasp. And according to Forrest Fenn, it weighs about 22 pounds, and its dimensions are 10 inches by 10 inches by 5 inches. It's not huge, but supposedly the contents of the chest are supposedly worth about $2 million. I mean, so that's the rumor anyway. And so people have gotten crazy, treasure hunting crazy over this thing. And they constantly go up into the Rocky Mountains looking for it because they think that they've solved the mystery of where the treasure is. And, Forrest Fenn, he's not going to tell where it is. And so recently, this Colorado man passed away. It makes the 5th person that has passed away looking for this treasure.
Legend says 7 must die. No, I'm very familiar with that. It's
Yes.
I have tried not going down the rabbit hole.
Right.
But people have, and it's very addictive. And when they start, they never stop.
Yeah, that's why I won't even, because you know how I am with puzzles. There's supposedly like a poem, and there's like books and stuff, and I won't read any of it because I know as soon as I start doing that, it's going to get me.
There's people that have watched anything he said in interviews, and I mean, it's really cool little community because they all think they know.
Right.
And this one thing was the clue, and it very well could be. What an evil thing! Now this guy has all these deaths on his name.
I know, and every time somebody dies, they plead with him to call it off, and he won't. I mean, he tells people, be careful, don't do anything silly, don't hunt for it in the middle of winter or whatever. But people are going to do it.
The thing's cursed now. I mean,
it has to be. I mean, that many people. Well, this recent gentleman, his name's Michael Wayne Sexton, and he was 53, and he had someone with him, a 65-year-old man. They didn't have his name, but they rented snowmobiles, and they went to the Dinosaur National Monument Wednesday, and they went into the wilderness. And they did have a copy of Fenn's book in their vehicle, so the authorities know what they were doing. They brought some candy bars, a couple bottles of water, but they got to a point where there wasn't enough snow to ride on the snowmobiles, so they got off their snowmobiles and started walking. But then the person that rented the snowmobiles noticed that night that they didn't come back, and so he reported it to the sheriff's office. So the next morning, the wife of one of the men also called and said that they didn't return when they should have. So the next day, the search started. And as the search went underway, the authorities realized that these same men had been rescued just a few weeks earlier in almost the same area, where they both became stuck in deep snow, obviously doing the same thing they were doing this time, and had to be rescued. That time they were both rescued and they were both fine. But this time, they had to keep searching for him. They found the man's truck on Friday. They found the snowmobiles on Saturday, about 5 miles from a road, and then eventually found the men on Saturday afternoon. It was like 4 days after they left. They had made it about a mile from their abandoned snowmobiles, and they were found within 5 miles of the site that they were rescued the last time. But when they got there, the gentleman, Sexton, he was already dead. The men were not dressed appropriately for the weather. They were not prepared to be stuck out there. They didn't have enough food and water. They weren't, like I said, dressed properly. So it was a really, really bad situation. The other man was rescued and taken to the hospital. But, it's just one of those things where people are, it's a question now, like, should this still go on? Should he call it off? Should he tell, go get it and tell people that it's not there anymore? Well,
at this point, I think that he should keep it going, because then their deaths, right now they would be in vain if, I don't know.
Well, the thing is, he does urge them not to go out during winter or in dangerous places, and to be smart about it. But, he, whether unfairly or not, he takes criticism every time there's a death, whether it's his fault or, it's not really his fault. He doesn't tell people to go search for the treasure, but you can't put $2 million worth of treasure out there, put clues out, and not expect people to go looking for it, Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. So
if I was a conspiratorial, focused guy, and I ever thought about evil spells,
right,
I would think about one that you made with a demon when you had terminal cancer, and it was that you're going to offer up these souls, throughout time for you to have your life.
Right.
Cure me, and I'll make sure people come out to you.
Hunting, yeah. I gotcha.
Greedy people that want this money. So you can take their... I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not saying at all that's what happened.
No. But it is a question. But
be a good story, though.
There's still people that even talk to somebody that is a Forrest Fenn treasure hunter. And, he even said, it's addictive. Once you get started, it's really, really hard to stop.
Yeah, because you get into it.
Yeah. I think somebody even tried to sue him once they said that he gave misleading and false information in one of his interviews or something. But I don't know how they could know that if they don't actually know where the treasure is. So I don't know. I don't think they won that. But all right, so let's move on. I found this article is really cool, and it's talking about the Gray Man of Pawleys Island.
Oh, I love the Gray Man.
And this is not something that happened recently, but this article is new, just sort of given the history of this particular spirit. One of
the best pieces of ghost footage you'll ever see is if you go look up the Gray Man of Pawleys Island. You're going to find it's taken like a security camera, and you can look down the dock and see him walk across near the water.
Yes, I did look it up.
And it's a pretty awesome piece.
It's pretty cool. So if you don't know, this is a spirit that's part of the Grand Strand. It's a group of islands off South Carolina coast. That's where Pawleys Island is.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a resort for fishermen, women, sunbathe. It's tourist, it's a pretty popular place. And the identity of the gray man, what they call the gray man, he's just an apparition, misty spirit. It's unknown. There are a lot of theories, and if you look at this article, it's a very long article. It kind of spells out all the different theories about who the gray man is. All the stories are different. The only thing that these stories have in common is that the gray man shows up before a hurricane.
Yep.
And he's sort of like a harbinger, a warning.
Right.
He shows up. Sometimes in the stories he tells people to leave. Sometimes he just shows up and they're like, "Oh, I see him. I need to go."
Right.
Because it's a local legend. People know that when they see the gray man, that means get off the island. So
I'll tell you a cool one. Actually, before big Hurricane Hugo, Hugo was the one that, it really just slammed and destroyed everything.
Right.
There was a couple that seen it, the gray man.
Yes.
And their house was the only one that wasn't destroyed. Everything on each side of them was destroyed, leveled,
right.
And their house was not, and they still attribute that he protected them.
Yeah, that was the one in 1989, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's on this list, because it says in here, the sightings of him, that he was seen during the hurricanes of 1822, and then he was seen in 1893. He appeared to the Lachicote family, and when they had already heard of him, so they immediately fled off the island, and a hurricane struck. He was seen in 1916, right before a hurricane, and then also in 1954. And in 1954, it says that there's actually a story there. It says that Bill Collins and his bride were honeymooning on the island. And around 5 a.m., he heard someone knock on the door. And at first he ignored it, but then he answered it because he thought maybe somebody needed help. And he saw a man in rumpled gray clothing with a gray hat pulled over his face. Couldn't see his facial features, but he said that the man talked to him and said that the Red Cross had sent him to tell him to leave the island because a big storm was coming. And so Bill Collins said he could smell like brine emanating from his clothing.
Right.
Like it didn't smell it. And all of a sudden the man just disappeared. But because he heard the urgent tone in the man's voice, and probably because the man was there and then disappeared, it was pretty weird.
Right.
He got his new wife and they left the island, and then Hurricane Hazel hit. So, it's always been like that. There was one in 1955, and then the one you mentioned, 1989. And that story's in here. Claire and Jack Moore were the ones. They were walking on the beach, and they saw him and approached them and vanished. And Claire believed that he was the gray man. So they packed up and left the island, and then, Hurricane Hugo hit.
Yeah. And it didn't damage their house.
So what I did, this article actually didn't talk about the most recent one, the one that you were talking about. So I looked it up because I knew we had mentioned that. And it was talking about how these two men, Billy and Jim McClency, they have a YouTube channel called Ghost Guys Go. They're not paranormal investigators. They spoof on paranormal is what they do. But they had this friend who was evacuated during for Hurricane Florence. And he was watching a live cam from the coast the night right before the storm hit, and he spotted something on Avalon Pier in Kill Devil Hills. So at the very end of the pier, it's like a 700-foot pier, a figure can be seen walking from one side to the other. So he sent it to them. They call it the Gray Man video, and they said, as far as we know, it's real. It's a real, live cam that points on the pier, and even the people at the pier, the employees at Avalon Pier, they said that is definitely their pier. It's their webcam, but they couldn't comment on whether it was a real ghost or not because they didn't notice it at the time.
Right.
But it did happen right before Hurricane Florence hit. So it's just another sighting to add to the list.
Yeah, it's very cool, man.
And it is very compelling video. It's very cool because you can very clearly see him walking right by.
Yeah.
And he's great.
It's such an amazing story. The last, that long with that many eyewitnesses and where he appears that strongly and just tells you to leave, and so he's obviously a benevolent spirit, right?
And sometimes in the stories he does speak to people, and sometimes they just see him and they happen to know who he is, and so they're like, we need to go,
right? If I smelled him and he smelled like brine like that, I'd beat him up. Be like, damn sea monkey, you came back for me in human form.
All right, so I have a couple more stories here. And this next one I'm going to do is going to be one of the eyewitness accounts from Phantoms and Monsters.
Oh, there you go.
Because I thought this one was really interesting. It's from Maine.
Mm-hmm.
And, we love things from Maine. But this is about a possible pukwudgie that was confronted in the Maine woods.
Oh, man.
All right, so this is an eyewitness account from a man who's living in Fairfield, Maine.
I know that one well.
And up the street from where he lived was some woods, of course, and he has a dog. His dog's name is Morbid. I love his dog's name. It doesn't say what kind of dog it is, but I love that he named his dog Morbid. And so he, took his dog out usually to burn off some energy up to the woods, and he said that his dog loved storms. So anytime it would storm or it was snow, the dog would wake him up and want to go out.
Yeah.
So the dog woke him up one morning about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It had just stormed, wanted to go out. And so he got up and got dressed and decided to take the dog to the woods. And he had a friend there at the house that was also up and decided to go with him. And so they walked out and they got up there and they were walking on this trail to kind of get to where the tree line was. And as they were walking towards the trees on both sides, there's like a swamp. And he saw some moose prints that were really fresh. So he gave the dog's leash to his friend and he wanted to check out the prints. And as soon as he sort of walked out onto the swamp ice, he fell through the ice to waist deep. And his friend was just laughing at him hysterically and he had to try and get out. So he finally got out and they continued on. He didn't go home or anything because he's a Mainer. They just continued on with the walk. And so once they get into the woods, there's like this little side trail. So he happened to see like this little gnarly looking tree down the little side trail. It looked really cool with all the snow on it. So he told his friend to stay there again, and he was going to walk down and take a look at it. So he went down the trail with his dog while his friend stayed behind, and he said that his dog dead dogged him. In other words, I guess the dog just stopped walking, and you couldn't move on.
Like,
yeah, he hates that. So he turned to see what was going on with the dog, and the dog was looking at this birch tree. And he said suddenly this thing stepped out from behind the tree and it looked towards them. And he said he could feel that it was just as surprised to see him as he was to see it.
Right.
And that it was just a completely black figure, oversized head, swollen belly, no fingers, no eyes, no like features. And he said that it was way too wide to fit behind the skinny little birch tree, but somehow it did. Like it would step back behind the tree and he couldn't see it. And then it would step out and he would be able to see it. And he said it was weird because he thought about that it was communicating with him telepathically because he knew that it was surprised, but there were no facial features to communicate that. Right. And it wasn't like talking to him or anything like that. He said it was really strange. Like it was weird that it could go back behind that tree and disappear. And he said, it stepped back and disappeared behind the tree. And all of a sudden the wind started to pick up and there was like a little snow-nado, how like the wind swirls and the snow swirls. And it started coming to him and basically chased him back down to the main trail and off that little side trail. So it stopped. And he said he got back to the main trail and the little snow-nado thing stopped. So he said he tested it 2 more times. He like walked down there a couple more times, and every time he walked down there, the wind would pick up, and there would be a little snow-nado. He eventually walked down there and was able to take pictures of the tree without being chased away. And he got some pictures of it, and he went home and he drew what he saw, and he took some, he had the pictures and stuff, and he sent all that in. So that's all on the story. So it's a really crazy story, but the reason that he thinks that it was a pukwudgie is because of what pukwudgies are. They're basically nature spirits, what we would call elementals, people of the forest spirits. They're supposedly small. This was only a few feet tall. And there's a lot of like different theories about them. They're magical creatures. Obviously, they can appear and disappear at will. They like to confuse humans. They can use magic. And the reason he feels like it's something like that is because on his walk, he was drawn away from his friend several times, which is not something he would normally have done. He wouldn't have said, "You wait here and let me go." He was drawn out into the swamp. He was drawn down that trail. It was just weird things that he would normally do. And supposedly, pukwudgies, they're not real fond of humans, so they like to trick them a lot. And if you annoy one, supposedly they will follow you. They'll play nasty tricks on you. Sometimes there's theories that they'll push you off a cliff if you're not looking or unsuspecting. And it says that they're also commonly found in areas with other forms of paranormal activity. They have been sighted near Fall River, which is close to the home of Lizzie Borden. They've been sighted around Moundsville State Penitentiary, around some places in Texas where supposedly Bigfoot lives. Just lots of very wooded and supernaturally themed areas.
Right, right.
So I don't know. It's a really crazy story. Definitely a lot of folklore for Pukwudgies.
Yeah.
A lot of Native American
Right.
and Indian folklore and stuff like that. And it's supposedly very heavy on the eastern seaboard.
I know those woods well. Those woods in particular, because I used to, when we were exploring and whatnot, that's the little road that I would take you back on. When we get to a little town and we would not be on interstate yet, because I would take these old ways back down. That was it.
Oh, I see.
And
I see.
yeah. So.
Yeah. So crazy little eyewitness account there. And yes, I agree that a lot of those woods up there in Maine, I think, have things like that in them.
Oh my God.
I mean, think about the vlog we did about Catherine's ghost.
Just so magical.
Yes.
So magical. But yeah, support Phantoms and Monsters website. It's really cool. Get on there and share the blog stories. It's really great stories to look up, and they keep it up real well.
Yes. All right. And our final story for tonight is about a California county that debated a resolution to protect Bigfoot.
What?
Yes. So this is from...
It's not the first one in California. We had a story a year or so ago.
So this is from the Trinity County Board of Supervisors. And last week they had their meeting, and alongside some regular, mundane governmental issues like, increasing the animal control budget and awarding liquor licenses and things like that, there was this proposal aimed at protecting Sasquatch. So specifically, the resolution argued that there's evidence to indicate the possible existence in Trinity County of a nocturnal primate mammal variously described as an ape-like creature or a subspecies of Homo sapien, also known as Sasquatch, Yeti, Bigfoot, or giant hairy ape. And
did they really say John Hairy Ape?
I think so. That's what it says
funny
in this article. So, noting that the purported presence of this creature in the region has not only drawn interest from researchers, but also gun-toting individuals looking to take down the beast, the bill called for any premeditated, willful, and wanton slaying of Bigfoot to be punishable by a fine of up to $1,000 and or imprisonment in the county jail for a period of 1 year. So the funny part about this story is that they actually debated this for about 20 minutes, and the entire debate was broadcast on YouTube. So there's a video of it and you can watch it. And, at first they were kind of laughing about it. And they're like, why is this on the agenda? And in response, one of the people on the board explained that there is an enthusiasm regarding Bigfoot throughout the county, and the resolution is just there to help facilitate the well-being of the creature, that they don't want anyone hunting or shooting Sasquatch. And the debate did get a little bit heated because one of the men got kind of upset. He said that he received quite a few emails where people were like, what's going on with all this? This is silly. Why is this on the agenda? And even though this one board member posited that there was really an educational or tourism related benefit to having the bill, that they just said, they find it insulting because it encourages laxity in the use of firearms, which I don't agree with because they don't want people shooting them. But, it was sort of a really heated debate, and they really did. There's people there at the meeting that spoke up, like locals that spoke in favor of it. So eventually, after about 20 minutes, the leader said, I'm not sure if we're trying to be funny or serious, what we're trying to do here, but we spent more time on this than we really should. And they ultimately decided to table the resolution so that it can be resubmitted as some kind of proclamation instead of, an actual law.
Right.
So I think that was probably the right decision.
So a proclamation would be like a best practice?
I think so, yeah. Like, it's not actually written in law, but it's known that you shouldn't do this,
right,
kind of thing.
Right.
So I guess they're going to circle back to that. They're putting a pin in it. They're going to circle back to that later.
Yeah, they put a pin in a lot of things like that. So let me ask you,
right,
Stacey, what do you think?
I think that it should be against the law to shoot Bigfoot.
So under any circumstance, what if Bigfoot just ripped your arm off?
Well, I mean, self-defense is different. I mean, to willfully hunt down a peaceful creature that nobody's ever seen before.
Well,
and shoot it.
Unless missing 411 is Bigfoot taking your kids.
This is true. What I find kind of funny about this resolution is, you could be fined up to $1,000 and or imprisoned for a period of 1 year. But if you found a Bigfoot and you shot it and somehow was able to save that thing, freeze it or something for a year, and chalked over $1,000, I'm pretty sure you'd end up with more money in the long run.
First off, shout out to all our new friends in California. We had over 100 new likes on the Facebook page from California, and we've had a lot of new listeners from California. So shout out to everybody out there. I know you've been going through some really hard times, followed by more hard times and more hard times. Right. And one of our best friends in the entire world lives in Cali, lives out in LA actually, Hollywood. So hi, Benita. Anyway, I thought, we never say hi to Benita.
Never do.
Hi, Laura. We'll say hi to Laura too. So anyway, with that said, I know that you guys have been going through a lot of hardships out there and stuff, but the thing is, if you're going to make it illegal for someone to use straws, maybe we should look at our priorities a little bit. I don't know. I mean, who agrees with me? I mean, there's some things out there that are probably a little bit bigger problem. Now, albeit this is a rural area. Right. And California is such a large state. You literally go from one extreme to the other and then back again. Right. As a rule, all over the world, I think that you should be, if you were to shoot Bigfoot and murder Bigfoot, right, I think you should be tried as a murderer. Personally, because what do we know? It stands on two legs, right? It looks enough like us, acts enough like it's an intelligent being. It communicates. It has children. Right. Yeah. I mean, look, it's one of those things where it seems like it's only defending itself if it's ever had an attack type thing, and even the attacks has knocked people down. I could think of one right off the bat where this guy had a rifle and they stared at each other and Bigfoot ended up knocking him down. But Bigfoot went away. Right. You're not going to hear about it if he didn't. I don't know. I think that we should definitely have a law out there, because there again, it's dangerous for me. What if I'm out there looking on there's a hot tip that there's been Sasquatch sighted.
Oh, yes, and you're just out there looking for Sasquatch, not trying to kill him.
Here I am with boots on, making me around 6'5", with 2-inch heels, I mean, it's...
You got a hunter out there that's all hyped up and wanting to shoot a Bigfoot.
It's dusk, there's no rule not to kill Bigfoot at night. It's not an animal you get a ticket for. I mean... Right. So they're out there spotlighting Bigfoot. I don't know.
That's a good point.
I just think that anything magical, I mean, because it is, okay? Anything like that we look at, like a mermaid, are you going to harpoon a mermaid?
Oh, I'm not.
And here's the whole thing about that, and I'm going to go back to men being men. Do you know why you're not going to harpoon a mermaid? Because you want to have sex with her. You don't want to have sex with the big hairy girl, okay? But the topless tart in the water, you're kind of like, hey, I could figure out the fish thing. That top part's pretty cool. So quit being that way. All right. If you're going to shoot Bigfoot, harpoon the mermaid. And, but I don't want you to do either. Don't take some guy's like, okay, well, my thing was blown off in the war anyway. No. So anyway, is that all the news?
That is all the news.
That was some really, and I mean this, okay? Sometimes my favorite news is when we had a lot of funny stuff and I get to talk about it and have some jokes. I have to be honest. That was one of my favorite news sections ever.
Oh, well, thank you, sweetie.
The Bosnian Pyramid thing was awesome.
That story.
Awesome.
Yes.
And we have to go back to that. And there's some others I want to follow up on that, we didn't have an answer. And so there's some really good stories on this episode.
I can't wait to edit this episode because of all the weird stuff that's been going on.
Yeah, guys, it has been. We told you
it's crazy.
We told you at the first this episode that it's been nutty around here. And during this episode...
That's what we get for having the Scrying Mirror open, I guess.
Yeah, I closed it because of all that. I see that. Yeah. I was like, okay, if this is happening, I just kept waiting for Dumbledore's eye to show up. Oh, wait, it wasn't Dumbledore, was it?
It was Aberforth.
It was Aberforth, yeah. And
looked like Dumbledore.
What was Dumbledore's sister's name?
Ariana.
Hi, Ariana. No, for my lovely, beautiful wife, Stacey, my name's John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.